Minutes later, he gets a secured version of his game without requiring changes to source code. The game is now protected from piracy and cheating, with no impact on the gaming experience. No impact on the gaming experience. No impact on the gaming experience.
So, what is Denuvo, and what is up with all the hate surrounding it? Well, for the first question, we all know that Denuvo is a DRM, or a digital rights management, which in simple terms is technology used to protect content from illegal use. Movies have them, and even ebooks. But in video games, DRMs were created to stop people from cracking them, therefore allowing thousands and thousands of people to download a pirated version of a game for free instead of paying for it. So a DRM is just an extra layer of protection that acts as a lock until you buy the game. That lock, however, is bypassed by cracking the game, which mostly happens with PC. And that's the purpose of Denuvo, to stop people from pirating a game. But unlike all the other DRMs, especially the Steam DRM, which pirates effortlessly crack on day one, Denuvo is extremely more complex to bypass. But it's weird because certain Denuvo games have gotten cracked in a few days, and we have other titles that have taken years to crack. So it's likely that Denuvo changes their methods of protection for each individual game. Now let's get to why Denuvo is such a problem and why so many players even refuse to buy games with Denuvo in them. First, there have been a lot of complaints from players due to lower performance on games protected by Denuvo. From comparisons I've seen, some Denuvo games run at even 20% lower, which is already a problem because the paying customer ends up getting the short end of the stick. The whole point is to stop people from pirating, but it really only makes people pirate the game even more, since they're gonna get a better version of it, with less problems, less stuttering, and less performance drops. There's also cases where users have been locked out of their license to play the game, and even worse, it is also blamed for making games stutter, which at this point is not only a performance issue, but it's a game-breaking issue. Of course, these problems aren't in all Denuvo games. But there are more concerns from Denuvo which could surpass anything previously mentioned. What if Denuvo was to shut down 10 years from now? Well, all of the games using their technology will no longer be playable, at least until Denuvo is removed. Which, who knows if at that point developers would even care if the game isn't selling that much anymore. Especially consider EA Sports. They love Denuvo, and they also love practices that aren't necessarily consumer friendly. So I could totally see them pulling something like this in the future. And that's pretty much why Denuvo is disliked so much in the gaming industry. To recap, it lowers performance, it locks certain users out of their game, it introduces stuttering in a few cases, and it has the possibility to shut down your game's license. And those 4 reasons are good enough for all the complaining we've been seeing, because there's nothing worse than paying full price just to have an extra background app ruining your experience. But I will say one good thing about Denuvo, and that one thing is that they've been able to keep games from being cracked in such an impressive way, because no other DRM has been able to pull that off. And there's a rumor that Denuvo costs $25,000 a month to keep, so I really don't know if it's worth spending that much money. But if they're saving so much, if they think they're saving so much money on sales by not letting pirates play the game, then that's fine. But I will say one thing, DRMs aren't that much needed. When you think about it, if a game is truly going to sell, it will sell. Elden Ring was cracked on day 1 and it still sold 12 million copies within 2 weeks. God of War 2018, Days Gone, and every other Sony exclusive that's ever released on PC was cracked on day 1 and was easily sold, selling very impressive numbers. Which is why Sony said they want to keep bringing their games to PC. Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 sold insane numbers, even though Cyberpunk was cracked on day 1 and Witcher 3 didn't even have a DRM. So these are all examples of great games that outsold their competition without needing to use Denuvo. Then you look at games like Resident Evil 4 Remake, and it sold over 4 million copies in 2 weeks, which for a Resident Evil game is very impressive. And this all just shows you that having a DRM or not just makes very minimal difference in sales. Whether games have a DRM or not, it doesn't really matter. The biggest problem, the number one problem that causes a game not to sell is performance issues at launch. And if Denuvo is causing games to have a poor performance, you will notice that in the game's sales. Because anytime a popular upcoming title is launched with issues, whether bugs or stuttering or just game-breaking problems, not only can you see reviews on Metacritic, but YouTube is plagued with videos denouncing the game. Most recently, look at The Last of Us Part 1 and Star Wars Jedi Survivor. But that's all we can really say about Denuvo and how it affects games, because if people are going to buy a game, they're gonna buy it regardless. They have the money and they like the reviews of that particular game too. And if someone cracks a game, they either don't have the money to spend $70 or just don't think that the game is worth buying in the first place. Denuvo doesn't stop people from cracking and buying them instead. That's just the simple reality about it.